Hello.
Hi, how are you?
How are you?
This is Catherine. I'm helping Deanna run the Zoom meeting today.
Okay.
Hello there.
Hello.
Hey, Steve, do me a favor. How do I pronounce your last name? Boyne?
Boyne, B-O-Y-N-E.
Okay, cool. I'm not sure if we've met before. Have we, Steve?
No, sir.
Hi, I'm John Dalton.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Steve.
I'm going to see if I can get my headphones working.
So I am making you all co-hosts so that way you can share your screens and things like that if you have PowerPoints or any supplemental material you want up on the screen.
All right, I'm testing my headset. Can everybody hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? I'm testing my also my headset.
I can't hear you, Steve. Catherine, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear both of you.
Uh-oh. John, you can't hear me?
Stephen, I hear you. Hi. No, sorry, that's my son.
Cool.
I hear Steve too.
Hello, 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 hello.
Hey, John.
Hi, Steve.
I mean, Matt.
Do you like Stephen or Steve?
Been married many years. I answer to anything, but Stephen is normally the way I go.
All right. Let's see. So who's going first, Stephen? Or do you know that story? Or Catherine, do you know? Or does somebody know
I don't know.
who's teed up first?
Hello.
Oh, hey, Tenna.
Yeah, I know. I just got a message saying, Tenna thanking me for registering. I guess we need to switch all this stuff out.
Oh, Deanna.
We're never going to forget Tenna.
No.
No.
I'm still incognito, I guess, using her name. Hush, Yoda. My dog. I'm sorry. Everybody good?
Everybody is great.
Steven, nice to meet you. Thanks for
Nice to meet you too.
Thanks for filling in for Jeffrey.
No problem.
Okay, so Dee, are you going to bring us into this today, or are you going to do your normal?
I could do hi and welcome, and then I was going to introduce you, John, and then you're going to kind of run the show. You're much more personable and dynamic than I am.
I don't know about that.
I'm boring.
So I'm just going to say welcome to our virtual healthcare connection on cybersecurity and HIPAA issues in the new world of COVID. Today we have two excellent speakers, Matt Gracey and Stephen Boyne. Matt's going to start off today by talking about recognizing and managing cyber risk in the COVID era. Matt Gracey is the CEO of Dana Gracey, an independent statewide boutique insurance agency specializing in insurance coverage for Florida doctors and their employees. Matt has been involved with the Palm Beach County Medical Society and Services for many years, serving as a board member and currently as the vice president of the services. What?
Of services. Why don't you just say, instead of saying of the Palm Beach County Medical Society services again, I would say of services instead of these services.
All right, I'm just taking, okay. So
Yep.
Insurance coverage in Florida's doctors and employees. Matt has been involved with the Palm Beach County Medical Society and Services for many years, serving as a board member and currently the vice chair of services. A past co-chair of Heroes of Medicine, members of numerous society committees, initiatives, including Future of Medicine, and as a regular writer for On Call magazine. Matt is a Delray Beach native. Matt, take it away. You do your thing, you finish. Stephen, what is the name of your presentation?
I called it the same name, basically. I'm just sort of, I use the same name, which is, let me see.
You're going to deal more with HIPAA though, yes?
Yes, I'm actually going to touch a little bit more. I'm going to touch on cybersecurity issues in general, because I've done a lot of that, and then the HIPAA issues associated with that.
Okay.
So, my title is Cybersecurity and HIPAA Issues in the New COVID World.
Okay.
Now, John, are you going to introduce both of them up front so then Matt can just slip it right over to Stephen, or
Which would you guys like?
would
don't
you
care.
rather like that introduce Stephen? It's up to you guys.
It doesn't matter to me. I can introduce Stephen. Although, I don't know, maybe it's better, John, instead of doing both of our intros first, just do mine and then I'll switch it
And
back.
then
to
you could do Stephen. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was planning on doing. I'm going to let you talk, and then then I'm going to say, and now we have Stephen Boyne to continue on with cybersecurity and touch on the HIPAA in the world of COVID.
Right.
Stephen, with over 30 years of practicing law, Stephen has spent the majority of his career working for various healthcare-related companies. From working for one of the largest healthcare insurers in the United States to general counsel for the world's largest fixed-wing air ambulance company. Stephen has guided healthcare-related entities through a variety of problems and issues. His background includes managing multiple healthcare cyber breaches, responding to state and federal healthcare audits, healthcare collection issues, and mergers and acquisitions. Additionally, Stephen has worked for a private entity in the healthcare space and was the general counsel of healthcare staffing company. With these years of experience, he is well equipped to guide both large and small healthcare entities through the myriad of issues they face on a daily basis. Take it away, Stephen.
Sounds good.
Okay. Which staffing company did you work for?
Inceptia, which you probably haven't heard of, but they're a wholly owned subsidiary of, and the reason it's one of Florida Blue's subsidiaries. And I think now it's a wholly owned subsidiary of Guidewell. And we basically, we did healthcare staffing and other staffing and consulting for healthcare entities around the country. And then we sold the company about 5 years ago.
Okay. Awesome.
And I just want to make sure I made you all co-hosts. So if you want to check on the bottom of your screen, if your share screen is available, so you can share your PowerPoint if you'd like.
Matt, why don't you try to do yours first, and then we'll have Stephen do his.
Okay. Let's see. I had sent mine along, so I don't have it up. I thought you all were going to have it here. Do I need to?
I sent a note that it was going to be a share screen for you guys. But
I missed
Catherine,
Stephen, while he's
that?
looking for his, why don't you open yours, Stephen?
Okay. Let me see if I can do that. And tell me if it comes up. Where is it?
If you bring your mouse to the bottom of the screen, you should see the share screen button.
Yeah.
Do you have the email that Matt sent you that had his attached? You might just.
I found it.
You found it? Okay.
Yeah. Let me try now.
Okay, go ahead, Matt.
Share. Let's see here.
Bottom of the screen, drag your mouse down. You'll see.
No, I haven't. I had my PowerPoint up, but now I don't see it here. Well, we'll put it up here. We go to here. Share screen. Oh yeah, here. Okay. Did that do it?
That did it. You just expanded out to full screen, but you're good.
All right, let me see. Let me
Go to slideshow.
I can, how do I get the full screen?
Go
here?
to top right underneath COVID-19 slideshow. Take your mouse to the right.
To the right.
See where it says home?
Yeah.
See where it says insert next to it? Keep
Uh-huh.
going. Design, translation, animation, slideshow.
Uh-huh.
Slideshow. Click on that. From the beginning. There you go. Perfect.
All right, so now if I just do stop share.
Yep.
Okay, now let me go back to it just to test. Share screen. Okay, I think we're good. Now let me make sure it'll forward. Well, it's not advanced. Oh, I see. Okay, I can advance it this way. Okay. All right,
Good. Okay. Good.
Good.
Steve, you're up. Let's try yours. Ow, 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 that was my toe. Ow, 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 that hurt.
What'd you do?
That's a work comp. I witnessed it.
You did. The screen collapsed on my big toe.
Oh,
Sometimes the whiteboard behind me with my hair, I just sort of blend into the board.
I had one of those hit me in the head one time, put a gash in my head. I'm like, oh, work comp.
Work comp. Unfortunately, I'm the only one here in my company that's not on payroll or covered.
Right.
How you coming, Steve? Steven?
I am coming. Hold on. Let me see if this works. Let me see if this works now.
Perfect.
All right.
Same thing, go to a slideshow from the beginning. And then how did you advance, Matt? What were you hitting, the space or the enter button or?
Now my
arrows?
mouse, I used my mouse just as a down. I couldn't get any of my arrow buttons to work, so I used my mouse.
Okay, Steven, do you want to try to advance in? Okay, perfect.
Cool. All right. I'll stop sharing.
And Barbara, you're watching all of this back, how we're making the sausage. How are you today, Barbara? You're on mute.
And then everybody else is going to stop their videos, I'm assuming, as I will do when Steven's talking and so forth.
We should all just go over when the PowerPoint comes up, everybody's video should just go to the left of the screen or the right, or however they set it up. We don't have to stop our video, just stop the screen share. I'm going to be moderating a video conference for the next hour, so I can't be disturbed, okay? Thanks. Hey, I'm going to be moderating a conference for the Medical Society for the next hour.
So John, are we going to take questions at the end for both of us, I'm assuming?
How would you like to do it?
Yeah, I think that's best, so we don't get hung up questions on mine and then Stephen's waiting and so forth.
Okay.
And I think there's also you might tell them there's a way to ask questions in Zoom here too, right? To type in questions.
Yeah, if you look at the bottom right next to share screen, you'll see a chat.
Yep.
How many people did we end up getting, Dee?
I don't know, Catherine? She's on mute.
When I checked this morning, we had about 20 people registered.
Oh, good.
good.
We jumped from 4.
You have any plans for the holidays, Matt?
No, I'm gonna be here.
Yeah.
It's a busy time of year for us.
Yeah, I bet.
We have a lot of, year-end renewals come up.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm being a very bad girl. I'm flying out to Breckenridge to see my girls who are living and working at a ski lodge out there for the winter. So we're going to go out.
Lucky them, lucky you.
It's kind of fluid. They graduate from FSU in May, and there's, of course, no real jobs out there, according to them. One's a marketing major, one's environmental science. So they worked at a lodge in the summer in California at Tahoe, and now they're working at a ski lodge in Breckenridge for the ski season.
Nice.
So, yeah, I mean, at least kind of self-sufficient and loving it, learning to ski. They were mediocre skiers, but now they're like skiing like crazy and loving it. So
Nice.
we're going out 2 days after Christmas and gonna spend a week out there. Hopefully. Everything is very fluid in this day and age. Oh, Tom Murphy's waiting in the waiting room.
There's Tom.
There's our boy.
Okay, it's 12:02, John.
We should probably get started.
Do we want to wait for
Give it a couple minutes.
any more people to come in?
Somehow I got let in, so good morning.
Hi,
Afternoon.
Barbara. Nice to see you.
Good to see you. It's been a while.
Yeah, I haven't seen many humans in 9 months. Good to see you.
Hello, John.
Hey, Barbara, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How about yourself?
Good. I let you in. I didn't want you standing out there in the cold in the waiting room all by yourself.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was finishing up making doctor's appointments for Mom.
Oh, yeah.
How's Mama doing?
She's doing okay.
Good.
Could be a lot worse, could be much better. But thank you.
I see Jeannie joined us. Good morning, Jeannie.
Hi, Jean.
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
Morning.
We're going to go ahead and just wait till 12:05 and we will get
Good.
rates started then.
I'm sorry, I'm just answering texts. We have a services board meeting tonight. We're getting.
I just resent all of the confirmation emails just as a reminder to everyone that registered.
Okay, thanks. Do, 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 do.
Tom, how are Lori and the girls?
Matt, are you ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Okay, you're, there we go. All right, did I see somebody else join?
Expecting 20. I don't know where they all are.
Well, why don't we go ahead and get started real quick? And hopefully we're going to have some other folks join us here in just a minute. For those of you that did join us today, I do want to go ahead and welcome you to our virtual healthcare connection for December 2020. This is going to be our last meeting of the year. And it's today's speakers are going to be talking about cybersecurity and HIPAA issues in the new world of COVID. My name is John Dalton. I'm the owner of Optimum RTS, and I'm very, very proud to introduce first Matt Gracey. Matt is the CEO of Dana Gracey, an independent statewide boutique insurance agency that specializes in insurance coverage for Florida's doctors and their employees. Matt has been involved with the Palm Beach Medical Society and Services for many years, serving as a board member, and currently he is the vice chair of services, a past co-chair of Heroes of Medicine, a member of numerous society committees initiatives, including Future of Medicine, and as a regular writer for On Call magazine. Matt is a Delray Beach native. Today, he's going to be talking about recognizing and managing cyber risk in the COVID era. Matt, it's up to you. Take it away.
Great, thank you, John. Let me get the screen up here. And
While Matt's getting this ready, I do want to say that today's presentation is going to be recorded and will be available on the website, the Society's website, within the next week. Also, we will be taking questions at the end. If you'd like to use the chat box, you can find that at the bottom of the screen, just to the left of the share screen button. Please type your questions there, and Matt and Steve will go ahead and answer them at the end of our presentations.
all right, thanks again, John. So it's no secret, of course, what's been going on for the last 8 months. And really, COVID has just propelled some of the cyber vulnerabilities that we've had all along. Remember, what's happened here is that telehealth has advanced probably, well, I saw a figure of 3 years this morning in an article, but I would say it's probably advanced 10 years in the world of medicine. And so anytime we get any big change like that, of course, we're going to have vulnerabilities. And in the nature of telehealth, of course, that's going to be in the cyber world. What else has happened? Well, we put a lot of people in home offices, and we did it in a pivot that sometimes was a pivot within hours. And so, of course, we have vulnerabilities at home with home systems. What did that lead to? It led to a whole industry also of having cloud-based systems. And everybody thinks cloud-based is where the future is, and I would agree with that. However, there's still a bunch of vulnerabilities with cloud-based systems. So in essence, what's happening is that we have a lot of factors all mixed into one because of COVID, and we will be seeing these factors lead to just bigger and bigger problems. The talk of the week, of course, in the cyber world is about FireEye and the government hack that the FireEye hack has exposed. FireEye is one of the biggest security firms dealing with government vulnerabilities. As many of us read on some of the front pages, FireEye was exposed. They have programs that they use to test the vulnerabilities of their clients. And again, most of the government, but also very big systems. Those are called exploits. And what happened was that the hackers came in and basically took control of all of the exploits. And so now we're not really sure what they're going to do with them, although we know that there will be some huge issues to answer to at this point. And frankly, every hour there's more that's coming out about this very serious hack of our government. So stay tuned to that. A couple of years ago, even, I gave a cyber talk with a number of IT specialists from big hospital systems down in Miami and Broward. I chose to go last in that cyber discussion. These were really serious cyber technicians and IT people that know far more than I know. At the end of their speeches, I got up and said, well, I don't really have to give much of a speech to tell you about the vulnerabilities because you just heard that. What I am here to tell you is buy as much cyber insurance as you can, because this whole era is not going to end well with our vulnerabilities. That certainly has happened, and it's going to happen more and more. Every one of the IT folks in that panel almost jumped out of their chair and said, listen to this insurance guy, because we can't stop the hackers any longer. One of them said they get 10,000 attempts a day on their systems. Again, big hospital system. And that's what we're facing. I believe we've entered an era of transparency in the cyber world. We're not there yet, but we're certainly seeing that everyone is vulnerable. And so Stephen's going to talk after I speak about the HIPAA complications of this new transparency that we're facing. But I'm going to talk a little bit really about the cyber insurance solutions. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but the market is following the cyber vulnerabilities and the expansion of those vulnerabilities very much, as you'll see. I'm then going to talk about the importance of just having a plan and the ways that our cyber insurers can help with that. And then really what to do if you do have a breach. So let's jump in. The insurance market, of course, because now we're reading about hacks on a daily basis and major ones, there's a whole bunch of pressure for the rates to go up. We have been in a very inexpensive cyber insurance environment to date, and it's just now starting to go up again because of some of the things that we've discussed. This next point is one that I believe is very important. We get asked a lot about, well, can we get some cyber assessments and so forth? The best way to do that is, and the cheapest way to do that, is to go through your cyber insurance company. They are your partners, just like med-mal carriers are partners in the malpractice insurance risk. The insurance companies are really partners in your cyber exposures, and they want you to be as covered up as possible and as secure as possible. And what we're seeing now because of that is that the underwriting has become very interesting. As many of you know, these malpractice insurance applications can be 15 or 20 pages. Cyber applications are 2 pages. Let me tell you why. Because they basically want to know your revenues, and then they want to know, okay, give us their websites and some of their addresses, and we will have some of our white hat hackers go in and have a look to see how vulnerable they are. They do that in the underwriting process very quickly. They come back to us and say, well, if this account will do this and this and this to further protect themselves because they have this port open and this exposure, then we'll insure them at this rate. If they don't do that, we either don't want to insure them or the rates will be very high. So we're seeing a very unusual partnership now develop in the cyber world because of it. And I just want to have you know that that's a great way to really find out how vulnerable you really are. In this new world, what we're seeing is that a whole bunch of claims, of course, are about ransomware and about funds transfer. These, as you can see, ransomware doubled in the first 6 months of 2020 with the COVID issues. And the whole remote desktop access world is where a lot of it is coming from. New ransomware is happening every minute now. And as you can see, many of them are also coming from your business associates, not just from your employees, as per the last point here. So what's the plan? You actually should have a plan. And that's what we're seeing is most folks have not thought through their plan well enough, nor have they really considered serious insurance. And they believe that their IT folks have this all handled. First off, the IT folks who are often in these presentations with us will tell you there is no way we have this handled. There's always vulnerabilities, and you need to have a plan for what happens when you do get hacked. And from there, it's just a matter of, all right, so what do we do? You need to get an assessment, and again, from the insurance company is probably the easiest way to get it. And then you need to make sure your IT folks have your remote access securely configured as well, of course. But your IT folks are certainly a partner, but remember, they will not take responsibility or the liability of a hack. And so it's important that they also have cyber insurance, we're finding out. So multi-factor tools are extremely important. I have read that very high percentage. I read the other day that 90% of hacks could be eliminated if we all use multi-factor identification tools right up front. Phishing your employees. It's extremely important. Again, employees at home, the culture has been a little bit fragmented, of course, and what we're seeing is many folks at home are opening emails that they shouldn't. And so it's imperative that a practice go ahead and just do these test phishing campaigns. They're either free from your insurance company or extremely cheap from many other sources. So I encourage each and every one of you to do that. Some of the real stories that we have, frankly, they just are going on and on now. We used to have one or two. Now it seems to be a weekly event that one of our clients has issues. We looked at a orthopedic group's coverage not long ago. Was coming up for renewal. They said, gee, can you just review this for us? We looked at it and said, gee, this is great coverage, but it has no business interruption should your system get hacked and you not be able to get into your patient records for some days. They went ahead with our suggestion. We were able to provide them with very comprehensive cyber coverage. And 1 week later, they had a breach that put their office out of commission completely, closed their doors for 1 week. And you can imagine the revenue issues that came along with that. And the cyber coverage handled it completely as far as their business interruption problems. Unlike, of course, some of the business interruption from the COVID world. So what do you do when you get hacked? Because most of every expert will tell you it's not a matter of if, but when. So here are some tips to contain the breach. Again, you're most likely going to immediately contact your IT professional, and then you want to contact your cyber insurer to bring their resources to bear. What you don't want to do is just start wiping out everything on your computer. You also don't want to engage expensive corporate attorneys who really aren't cyber experts. It seems to be a habit that we all pick up our phone whenever anything kind of bad happens, and we call our attorney and say, hey, this just happened. And again, might be a great corporate attorney, but they might have zero cyber experience. So you want to make sure that you get the right people in place. And again, make sure initially you don't make any public statements about the breach. And again, a coach will help on that front. Here's all the things that the cyber insurance folks will bring to bear. We early on in our insurance experience with cyber attacks learned that the response team of each insurance company is probably the most important part of any coverage, besides being robust coverage with business interruption. But here are just some of the resources that they can bring to bear. So what are some of the other things that you can expect? Again, it's unlike most insurance coverage claims where you have kind of one team that comes in. There are going to be multiple people involved in helping you. And also the really great part is you're going to have a coach, kind of the quarterback that will hold your hand through a breach, because they can be very stressful. And With that, John, I'll turn it back to you for having Stephen weigh in on his great expertise. Thanks so much. Your mute is on, John.
Thank you so much for that, Matt. Matt, thank you so much for your part of the presentation. While Stephen is getting his presentation ready and switching over to share screen, let me go ahead and do an introduction. Stephen Boyne, with over 30 years of practicing law, Stephen has spent the majority of his career working for various healthcare-related companies, from working with one of the largest healthcare insurers in the United States to the general counsel of the world's largest fixed-wing air ambulance company. Stephen has guided healthcare-related entities through a variety of problems and issues. His background includes managing multiple healthcare cyber breaches, responding to state and
Wheelahan
federal.
says she didn't order any tests for you. Are you sure it's Wheelahan we're talking about?
D, you're not on mute. His background includes managing multiple healthcare cyber breaches, responding to state and federal healthcare audits, healthcare collection issues, and mergers and acquisitions. Additionally, Stephen has worked for one of the private equities in the healthcare space and was general counsel for a healthcare staffing company. With these years of experience, he is well equipped to guide both large and small healthcare entities through the myriad of issues they face on a daily basis. Stephen Boyne, take it away.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. So I've been through, I guess, fortunately, unfortunately for some of my clients, representing them when they've suffered cyber breaches, and have worked with a few of the insurance companies' teams that basically parachute in and assist corporations and individuals and entities when they do have a cyber breach. And I can say they're very good. I've yet to run into a group that really didn't know what they were doing. They provided some very good advice. And so far, what you got from Matt is also some very good advice. And if you take anything away from today's presentation, probably the most important thing is that you ought to buy the insurance, because frankly, it's relatively inexpensive today and the benefits are really wonderful. So I'm going to go forward and sort of just talk about initially some examples of some cyber breaches. I'll tell a couple of war stories, and then I will wrap it up with some tips with respect to HIPAA, and also some takeaways that perhaps those of you, hopefully, who haven't had a breach may need to think about before they purchase the insurance, and also with respect to sort of upgrading some of their systems. All right. So, okay, I kind of wanted to throw out some statistics and just sort of give you an idea. So this is from a couple of surveys that were done with small to mid-sized corporations, and it's probably underreported because a lot of CEOs and corporations and healthcare entities don't like to talk about if they've been breached, and frankly, they keep it quiet unless they have to report it, because it damages their reputation. It's financially, it frankly doesn't look very good from the management perspective, and it can oftentimes lead folks to, at least consumers, to go in other directions and deal with a company that's perceived to have vulnerabilities from a cyber perspective. Of course, it's really not true, because most companies still do have vulnerabilities. Anyway, 49% of US companies have experienced a data breach the past few years, which was down, interestingly, from 65%. I'm not so sure whether come the end of this year, that number is going to be valid. Now, granted, this is the next thing is a lot of states have reported, a lot of entities have reported cyber breaches, and since 2008, California is the top. And I really think, if you look at the numbers, basically that's just sort of a list of the largest states out there. I don't have the Florida numbers, but we're talking billions of records being exposed, thousands of breaches, And these are probably the largest ones. And most servers are attacked, once every minute, whether you're a small server, big server, with big company, small company, whatever you are, you basically, most of your servers are being constantly attacked, and there's many different ways to be attacked. But basically, just because you're a small healthcare provider, perhaps with a few employees who are either working remotely or working from home or working in the office, don't think that you don't have some vulnerability. You do. The other thing that I think is very important is the average time to identify a breach is 206 days. The most recent breach I dealt with, I believe we identified it about, it wasn't 206, but it was probably about 150 days. And if you think about it, that means there's months and months where someone has access, either real-time access or temporary access to some of your information. So just because you have a breach today doesn't mean you're going to find out about it until months later when someone decides to sell the information or utilize the information they may have garnered from your systems. The next thing is the value of the data on the dark web. This is a little bit old, probably a year old, but basically a valid credit card goes for about little over $5. Social security number goes for $15. Medical records, they tend to go for between $60 and $250 a medical record. Well, why are they so valuable? Well, because a lot of folks are moving to electronic health records. They're dumping it all in one location, and it contains a lot more than just the health information. And frankly, the folks who traffic in this are generally not looking for your health information. What they're looking for is everything else but that. So social security number, date of birth, sometimes parents' names, driver's license numbers, pictures of the people, credit card information. So basically, the one record can provide a large tranche of information that makes the information very valuable from a lot of different folks. I'm actually writing a little article right now, which is, do your employees drink coffee? And the question is, why would I even, that would be the title of the article. Well, the reason why that's kind of an important question, and most people do drink coffee, myself included, and we tend to go out to Starbucks and other places to go have a cup of coffee. And that's because folks who drink coffee and go to these public places end up using public Wi-Fi. And the most popular places for public Wi-Fi are, no surprise, coffee shops, airports, and hotels. And it's pretty easy. Just get on YouTube and look about how some folks can hack into free Wi-Fi and public Wi-Fi. They tend to basically set up their server, they set up their laptop, it's called man in the middle, and basically they mimic the information coming off the router in the free Wi-Fi, and they basically sort of end up being a middleman for the transfer of data from your PC to your server through, and they capture everything in real time. They store it away. They sit there for an hour or two, and hopefully they walk away with everything from patient records, information, logins, passwords. They just have a pretty easy way to capture a lot of information flowing from a lot of different systems. It's pretty common. The employee is unaware of the breach. And again, let's remember that oftentimes you don't find out about that breach or that information for months and months. And they sort of sit there for a few hours, capture it all, and then move on. So a couple of things, and this is touching on a bit of a war story, that we did not, one of my clients did not spend the money on virtual private networks. And I think that's kind of money well spent. A virtual private network is basically, and you can buy these, there are many VPNs out there. The cost per employee is very small. And basically you tell your employees that when they're not, when they're not in the office, they need to log into a VPN. And effectively what the VPN does is it sort of encrypts everything going back and forth. It sets a tunnel up between your employees' system and your servers and your networks, and it encrypts everything and makes it very, very, very difficult for folks to capture that information. And it's a very cheap solution, and it really doesn't matter whether they're traveling across the world, whether they're in the coffee shop or whether they're home. VPN is a very powerful tool that I really recommend a lot of my clients think about. Next thing is, which already we touched on, two-factor authentication. Again, it doesn't stop folks from viewing your employees' data to the extent that they're sort of on an open network, but it prevents future logins because basically most of the time such things as Outlook 365 and those kind of things, you can turn on two-factor authentication. You can also turn on, and for no additional cost, and you can also turn on such things as location tracking. So if you have the employee logging in from 2 geographic locations within a short time, that makes it virtually impossible, then it must be the other person is logging in from New York when your employee is sitting down in Florida. So it does add additional layer of security. And then the other item is basically preventing, from a network perspective, preventing if you get your network administrator to restrict the type of data that's going to be transmitted over the network. So how does the HIPAA Act apply to you? Well, you know, the first question is, and I'm sure most folks who are logged in here are covered entities. You know, they are healthcare providers, they're clearinghouses, they're health plans, and even if they're not covered entities, they may end up have executed some sort of business associate agreement with a covered entity where they're going to be covered, and they're going to have to comply with the HIPAA Act and all of the other associated both federal and state rules. So even if you're not covered by the HIPAA Act, the guidance that comes out from the federal government with respect to the transmission, reviewing of data under HIPAA, and sort of the articles written about that you can easily find on the internet, how to keep your system secure, how to keep your employees secure, those kind of things. They're very valuable, and I think it's kind of important, even if you're not, as I said, even if you're not a covered entity or you're not a BA, you don't have a BAA in place, complying with HIPAA is probably not a bad idea for your business. So if to the extent you end up having a breach, and generally the way it works is you, as Matt said, you will want to contact your insurance company, who have a whole team who will parachute in and help you out a lot, and they're going to walk you through the requirements. There's going to be, depending upon the size and scope and geographic location and a few other factors, you're probably going to have to send out notices to the individuals. You may have to set up a website. You may have to set up a call center. You may have to put out a media notice if more than 500 persons have been affected in a specific area. And then to the extent there's more than 500 people, you'd have to send a notice to the Secretary of the HHS. Then you end up having to also comply with state rules. And for example, Florida, even if it's not HIPAA data, if it affects more than 500 persons, you have a reporting obligation. And if it's more than 1,000 persons, you have consumer reporting agency. And you also have to report to the state attorney's office as well. So every state has their rules, the federal government has their rules, and the insurance company is going to walk you through that. And they're going to assist and generally pay for complying with the breach notification. What they're not going to do is they're not going to pay the damages that you may suffer as a result. Third parties sue you, those kind of things. But generally, they do provide a significant source of assistance, and it's not like you can sort of just hand it off and they deal with it there. You're going to need to spend quite a bit of time working with them. But they, in my experience, has been that the folks they hire from a technology perspective and from a legal perspective really know their stuff and do a great job, and they have a lot of contacts with the right people to try and smooth over any regulatory inquiries. So the cost of the breach, assuming you've got insurance, you've obviously got the deductible where that is, whatever that is. Management time, you're going to spend time working with the lawyers, working with the regulators, working with the IT folks. You may have some reputational issues. You're going to have to deal with regulators, and even when you have lawyers sitting next to you, you're still going to have to spend time working with the regulators and making sure that everything is done correctly. You may end up having to hire another attorney beyond just at your own cost outside of the insurance company, to the extent you're perhaps a little bit uncomfortable with the advice, or sort of double check the advice coming in from the insurance company. And then sort of a war story, spending more money on system remediation than you might be comfortable with. And this was one of my clients had a somewhat significant data breach. We had insurance. The folks came in, they provided wonderful assistance. We ended up getting investigated by the Office of Civil Rights of HHS, which is kind of the way that the HHS investigates and enforces HIPAA breaches. And they hired a couple of lawyers. They had a couple of lawyers who worked for the Office of Civil Rights of HHS, and they went through everything with a fine-tooth comb. And they basically worked with us and our IT folks and the IT folks of the insurance company that provided the assistance. They sort of worked with not only a plan to notify all of the folks who had been adversely affected by the data breach, but also, what was our remediation plan and what was our plan in the future to ensure that it didn't happen again. And one of the items that the management really was pretty uncomfortable with was that there was this sort of strong recommendation that we needed to have these sort of multiple layers of security within the system that ended up costing my client, and the client's sort of relatively big, and has multi-million dollars worth of revenue, but they basically had to pay for some pretty significant remediation and some pretty significant ongoing levels of cybersecurity that they probably wouldn't have to have had gone through, but for the fact that they had a cyber breach. It ended up costing them probably, I'm guessing, around $150,000 a year going forward to make sure that compliance is ongoing. And of that 150, there was sort of about $70,000 piece of software that we had to load on top of our servers. And again, that was something that I think if we had instituted two-factor authentication, had VPN in place, and perhaps had taken some advice of some folks who had come through and audited our systems on years gone by, we probably would have avoided a relatively simple hack that cost us a lot of money, a lot of reputation, and we're going to spend a lot of money going forward. So one of the takeaways is spend the money now rather than spend the money when it's all said and done, because when it's all said and done, you end up spending a whole lot more money than if you just spend the money up front, which is buy the insurance and listen to your IT folks when it comes to auditing and double checking and looking at your systems. So what to do? Purchase appropriate insurance. Hire third parties to evaluate your current systems. And as Matt mentioned, insurance companies oftentimes provide that. But look at that very carefully, and don't say you can't afford this or you can't afford that, because sometimes it's a little cheaper to spend a little bit of money up front to avoid it than the back end. Develop policies, procedures internally. And one other item that sort of I wrote down while Matt was talking was he mentioned that a lot of folks are moving to the cloud, and a lot of electronic health record companies who provide software to a lot of healthcare providers. I think the one question you need to ask those folks is, are they moving to the cloud, and is your data sitting on the cloud? And I think you will find out most of them, either your data is ultimately sitting on the cloud, whether it's Amazon Web Services, IBM's, or Microsoft Azure's, or something like that, or they plan on moving to the cloud, because most companies these days are moving away from giant server farms, and it's sort of a whole lot cheaper to put everything on AWS or Microsoft Azure, or those kind of things. And I think the one question you need to ask is, are they moving to the cloud? And if the answer is yes, they are moving to the cloud, or your data is on the cloud, The next question, very, very important question that you need to ask them is, what sort of implementation do they have with respect to HIPAA data on Microsoft Azure or AWS? And for example, up until about 6 months ago, you had to pay extra money if you stored data on AWS to ensure that the data, when it's sitting on AWS, is actually HIPAA compliant. So you may end up having an electronic health record company that's selling you services and selling you, software to store all of your patient data. But the information that resides on AWS, your information that you're ultimately responsible for, your patient information that you're ultimately responsible for, was not secured from a HIPAA perspective. AWS recently has updated their systems, but even now, if you don't turn on certain keys and don't turn on certain items within the implementation, it's not HIPAA compliant. And as far as IBM and Microsoft Azure and other cloud oracles, those kind of things, you actually have to sort of pay a little bit of extra money to make sure that the whatever data and location and space that your electronic health record provider is purchasing from a cloud provider is HIPAA compliant. So first question is, are you on the cloud? Is my data on the cloud, or will it be on the cloud soon? And two, explain to me and walk through to make sure that data residing on the cloud is secure from HIPAA perspective, and don't just expect them to say, yes, it's fine. Thanks. That's the end of it. I appreciate your time. And if you have any questions or items, please do not hesitate to contact me or Matt.
Hi, well, thank you very much, everybody, for attending today. Does anybody have any questions that they'd like to put into our chat group right now? Or just speak up? As we said, today's presentation was recorded, so you can go ahead and view it later on. It will be on the Palm Beach Medical Society's website as of next week. My name is John Dalton. I'm the owner of Optimum RTS. Matt Gracey, the CEO of Dana Gracey, and Steve Boyne of, I'm sorry, Steve, I don't know the name of your company.
The Florida Healthcare Law Firm.
The Florida Healthcare Law Firm.
Otherwise,
Thank you.
it was Jeff Cohen.
Jeff Cohen's firm, yeah, and we're out of Delray Beach for what it's worth.
Thank you, guys. You were great. We had a lot of people call in and ask if they could view this later. So I think we're going to get a lot of hits on it next week when it comes up.
Thank you. Have a very Merry Christmas and a happy holidays for whatever you're celebrating this week.
Happy Hanukkah and Happy New
next
Year.
week.
Thanks all.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.